because those are Zimbabwe problems. I'm from Mthwakazi.
Yes.
Is it so?
You've got no idea. I say to you,
and
again,
I've been watching your interactions with Ndebele and Shona people on your timelines. I mean, the tension, it's so fierce.
The tension, my brother, is really so fierce. If it will be a nuclear
full, so we understand what is Mthwakazi.
Mthwakazi is what we call in layman's term the Ndebele state. It's a nation that was built by King Mthwakazi when he set foot in those lands at the time, the north of the Limpopo, and it composes of many. And Rutendo is that
they both have South African IDs,
yes, and ANC has allowed that. I'll explain why. And to Rutendo and the likes of Maponga is Maponga actually grew up in Ndebele. We know him very well in Solusi, and I dare say when I asked the elders that were looking after him when he was a toddler up until a boy, he has been always someone of questionable mental faculties. I'll put it in that way. And Maponga, he cannot vomit pan-Africanism and then at the same time defecate anti-Ndebele tribalistic tendencies. Gukurahundi on its own it's something, those agonies, the pain and suffering, humiliation that we have never recovered from is what drives some of us to form pressure groups like Ndebele United. We seek redress and we seek to unite everyone who's of Ndebele land, wherever they are in the world, regardless actually of whatever political party they belong. We have realized that the so-called national politics is not working for us, and we want to do what we call walking political buffoons.
So what exactly is it about, let's start with Rutendo, that you find fault with? Like I told you, for me, there's some tribalistic thing that he has said, and some, unfortunately, sure.
We, the Ndebeles, do not have that ability because the Shonas seem to represent and conquer us. So I say, wait, we cannot come into the Pan-African the strong presence there. The Shonas have always been a docile people. They're not militant. They're not fighters. They are people that prefer just to perhaps scavenge, loiter, find something to eat, something to sustain themselves, farm. They are not those kind of people that I'll say adventurous in my own terms. So now that's why they were willingly occupied by the whites. When those militias are
yes, like thank this. You. Yeah. Sharp. So, please tell the audience who are you and where you from.
My name is Keith Dube. I was born in Bulawayo in the 80s, and I've been certainly living in SA since around 2003. And I've finished my tertiary year. I've managed to secure myself a career. Yes.
Do you hold a dual citizenship?
Not yet. I do not hold a dual citizenship.
What qualifies you to hold it?
I think what qualifies you to hold it is the amount of years that you've been here, and perhaps your skin color.
No. Besides being married, I think that's the quickest one everyone knows. But it's fine. I think what we'll do, we'll just put the requirements of being and then do you want a dual citizenship or you want to be a full South African without having your ZIM links?
I want to be I want to have a dual citizenship.
Okay.
Yes, I believe that for us, the Ndebeles, we've got our roots here.
Yeah.
And we should be accommodated, at least temporarily, so that we can sort our house in order, in particular, given the fact that we are not the cause, or we're not part of the one-party state situation that's happening there in ZIM.
Yeah. So I want you to explain in layman terms what is Mthwakazi. Just explain it in full so we understand what is Mthwakazi.
Mthwakazi is what we call in layman's term the Ndebele state. It's a nation that was built by King Mthwakazi when he set foot in those lands at the time, the north of the Limpopo. And it composes of many tribes, actually. It's not only, some people claim that it's majority Zulus that came from KZN. Mthwakazi, when he left KZN, he stayed even here in Transvaal.
I want you to speak next to your mouthpiece. Ne?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He stayed.
If you want to lean, maybe just pull it next to you. Yeah.
Okay. So he stayed in Transvaal. They then Transvaal there, even remnants of where he settled in the Mahalis, and there's some historians that even say that the so-called now the current union buildings used to be a compound that where Mthwakazi used to stay. So that's 1930s, 1932, 1933, 1934. Mthwakazi already there, but he was pushed out by the Boers, the Voortrekkers, the 4 team. So
19 or 13, 19 or 18.
I'll say 18.
18.
18, yeah. Sorry about that. 1830s, 1832, 33, 34. Yeah.
That was after Shaka had died.
That was after Shaka had died, and I think it was Dingani then who was King Dingani. He was the one who was in power, and King Dingani was pursuing him for their own feud, so those wars, which also included the Voortrekkers, Mthwakazi lost a lot of armies and he had to venture further north. He incorporated a bit of the Ndebeles, the Mhlangas, the Mahlangus, and so forth. We have them, some Tsonas, and a whole lot of other groups. Some of Skukunes people as well that were incorporated into that nation. So you went from KZN all around SA through Transvaal, then Transvaal, and picked up a couple of tribes and built a nation. And when you got there to ZIM, you found some people. In that part, there were the Kalangas, what you call the Tongas, there were Shanganis as well, they were there. There were the Khoisan, Abatwa. So when we say Mthwakazi, it's a name that's derived from the people of the land there. Oh. They were predominant in those regions at the time, Abatwa. So Masiti Abatwakazi, we are talking about people that reside or occupy the land of Abatwa. That's why where the land Mthwakazi, the name comes from. So he built this nation. It was a full state where he was the head, or I would say the prime minister or the president, and the Ndunas. These Ndunas were of different tribes, and they were each leading their own people. They were allowed to carry on with their culture, speak their language, and a nation was built.
Okay, so if I refer to you as Mthwakazi, am I still correct?
Yes, you're correct when
so
you say.
Mthwakazi is a person, and Mthwakazi is the the republic. Okay, no, let me just say, Mthwakazi is the person. Mthwakazi is the land.
Okay.
And then Mthwakazi is also the republic that you guys want.
Yes.
The Republic of Mthwakazi.
The Republic of Mthwakazi. Yeah. So Mthwakazi or Mthwa is a person that belongs to the state, and that person isn't anyone who can be said that they are so by reason of them of belonging to a specific tribe. You can either be Ndebele or Nguni, so to speak, which means your origins or your roots could be in KZN or in SA. You can be Ndebele, a Mahlangu, you can be a Dube, you can be a Kumalo, and so forth. So you can be someone who's perhaps Shanghai extraction or a vendor for that matter. So Mzilikazi even yet Ndunas who were vendors. So you would assign, basically, if you belong to a specific clan or tribe, you appoint all those people through their own customs. They will appoint their own head or leader, and that person will subscribe to his kingship.
Okay, it's a long battle between Mashonaland people and people of Mthwakazi. Please explain, according to you, because this thing didn't start with, I suppose didn't start with Joshua Nkomo and Mugabe. Just explain, before you even went into joint struggle, before the zebras and stuff, what were the tensions? Was it just language? Was it tribalism started before even Cecil John Rhodes came?
I would say the narrative, just to say, I'm speaking, on a point of view of Ndebele United.
Yeah.
So we are a pressure group that comprises of young people from Ndebele. And we have researched this, and through oral history and written history, written mostly by the colonialists of the time. Now there was an issue then in the 1840s, 1845, 1850. So the Shonas on their own, they were kind of like, they are not a nation, they're scattered people, they are tribes that were occupying those plains we now call Mashonaland. And the people that did a bit of farming and not so much when it comes to cattle. So when Mzilikazi arrived there, he made a pact with a king that he found, the Kalanga king. His name was King Mambo. Those are the people that built the so-called Zimbabwe ruins as we speak now. There are some in the Kami, Obulawayo, and others in the current Maswingo area. Those were, I would say, the original inhabitants who occupied those lands from as far back as before the 10th century. So this Kalanga king, they formed a nation. It was agreed that he sought the protection of King Mzilikazi, since Mzilikazi had the mighty army, and he was a militant figure at the time. So they agreed to rule together. And I would say perhaps Mzilikazi is what I'll call, he was the president, and King Mambo was the prime minister. So now, because King Mzilikazi had a lot of cattle, there were some skirmishes between the headmen of King Mzilikazi when they were eating cattle. There are some Shonas who come back and steal Mzilikazi's cattle and run them deep, with them deep into Mashonaland. Sometimes Mzilikazi will pursue those and recover some of those cattle, and those were the skirmishes. And then now, the issue is that the narrative has been that Mzilikazi used to go and attack the Shona people and kidnap their women. That is a lie, those narratives, because they've been used to justify Gukurahundi.
Oh.
Okay, so that's where it starts. But now, when you move 1870s, 1880s, 1875, I think Mzilikazi dies, Lobengula takes over, we see that the whites have a presence already in the then, I don't know what they called it before then, but the whites called it Salisbury, the current Harare. So the whites had a strong presence there. The Shonas have always been a docile people. They're not militant. They're not fighters. They are people that prefer just to perhaps scavenge, loiter, find something to eat, something to sustain themselves, farm. They are not those kind of people that I'll say adventurous in my own terms. So now that's why they were willingly occupied by the whites. When those militias, I'll call them, that were sent by Rhodes, they just came and walked into their lands and took over without resistance. So once that happened, that was already in the 1890s. They had a strong contingent of so-called missionaries there. So when this army of Rhodes came in, they just took over, and they didn't dare with Lobengula, because Lobengula at the time was trying to basically sign concessions and mining concessions. If you want to mine in his territory, you're white, you're Portuguese, you need to sign a concession with him. You want to farm, you want land. So he was really what you call a proper leader for the time for an African. He knew what he was doing. He understood administration and governance. You would even will delegate some of his indunas to go and speak on his behalf in London at the time. That was far ahead of his time. Okay, so now when the Mashonaland people in Salisbury were conquered, Cecil John Rose realized that he needed more power in order to conquer the Ndebele state, or the Mthwakazi state that then had a new king, Lobengula.
At that time, was Munyati River still a physical boundary between Mashonaland and Ndebele land?
Yes, it was a physical boundary. That is where the whites of the time, they recognized that the conquered part, which was Mashonaland on the other side of the Munyati River, they did not dare come over and above the Munyati River. They did recognize those boundaries. So that's why they to amass military power, and they do they say a couple of hundred, I think the number is 640, a strong regiment of Shonas. They were armed with even Martin Henry rifles, some of them, to amass this army to come and conquer the army of King Lobengula at the time.
So the white armies from Rhodes and the colonialists,
yes,
amassed an army of Shona people.
Yes, a regiment. Yes.
A regiment to come and attack, trying to conquer the
Ndebele state.
The Ndebele state.
Yeah, for colonialism.
Okay.
So unfortunately at the time, because they knew the might of Mthwakazi's army at the time, Lobengula's army, we had Lobengula had like an arms manufacturing firm at the time. They will produce their own rifles. They will produce even their own ammunition. So he was pretty much someone who was an astute leader. So they had to find ways, his weaknesses, to conquer him. So they had to get this regiment, and they realized that Lobengula.
Are you saying before the 1900?
This is 1890.
Yeah, before 1900, Lobengula already had an arm manufacturing.
Yes, an arms manufacturing firm at the time. Okay. Yes, he had a factory that was manufacturing
arms and ammunition.
Arms and ammunition,
okay.
And was trading heavily on that. He realized the need of arming his army. So he had regiments that were marksmen, were specialized, were not carrying spears, but they were using rifles. And so that meant that the Cecil John Rhodes column, that's what they called them at the time, needed something stronger, and then they had to import what they called at the time a Gatling gun.
Gatling.
Yeah, that Gatling gun, I think there were 3, if not 4. At the time, those that have seen the cowboy movies, is not that old machine gun that you wind and it keeps on shooting. It's got 2 wheels and you tow it with a horse. It's like a wagon, like. So they bought those, and those were earmarked to basically massacre the armies of Lobengula at the time. So once that was done, that was around 1893. They came through with a promise, I think, from the British Crown at the time, that they should bring the head of Lobengula with the strong regiment of Shonas. So the war in Katati, what you call Katati, took days. And our people were killed and massacred. That's why we've got a saying in our language, Ndebele. So it means essentially it's kwakwa, that machine gun. It means that you've got nothing left to defend yourself with.
Yeah.
So Ipeshu is a shield.
Yeah.
So they died trying to stop this Gatling gun from massacring them. Some stories say they even managed to stop a few of the people that were operating those Gatling guns. So they will try to go and basically mask the muzzle, or what's that through which you see the pointer on the rifle. They'll try to mask that with a shield. So those armies were massacred. Majority of them were killed, and Lobengula was left with 1 regiment, and he tried to run away, and he was pursued, and that specialist so-called regiment of roads that was told to bring the head of Lobengula fortunately was killed by that regiment. They basically did an ambush and let Lobengula escape with a few trusted individuals, and then
We shoot the Politically Incorrect podcast from the Digital Photography Studios. They are based in Pretoria. If you need any information, kindly contact them on the provided information. Thank you. While on a technical break, please use this opportunity to subscribe and click and suggest this content to your other African brothers. The aim of the channel is to make sure that we invite all African anywhere in the continent to come and sit and talk. The more we discuss African issues, the more we learn with each other. We become one Africa. This is in essence what has caused. This is the history of the fights between Ndebele and Amashona.
Yes.
So I don't want to go back to history. I just wanted to understand. So this is me, a layman who needs to understand Gukurahundi. So Gukurahundi, it's Amashona, well, directly and indirectly, massacring defenseless Ndebele civilians for number of years, 5 or 4 years.
I think that was 6-7 years.
6-7 years, and well, it's a contested count like any other thing. They say around 20,000 people perished, and I've seen Rutendo and other Shona people downscaling that number.
Yes, of course.
Yes.
Rutendo.
So I want you to unpack it for me. What does Gukurahundi stand for you? And especially because Mnangagwa himself, as the poster boy of Gukurahundi, hasn't apologized in all those years, given lots of opportunities. I mean, we'd rather call people, is it cockroaches?
Yes, that's what they used to call. So
what is it to you as...
I would say, to me, is someone who is of Ndebele extraction, belong to the Mthwakazi nation, and representing Matabeleland United as the Secretary General, the interim one for that matter, is if I were to define colonialism, colonialism without the context of color. I would say colonialism is where a group of people, be it maybe yellow people, red people, go to, let's say, green people, subjugate them, seek to conquer them, seek to rule over them, take over their culture, make them look up to them, make them dependent on them, remove anything of resemblance that reminds them of their cultural identity. Through genocide, systematic tribalism, it could be anything that can be used as a tool to conquer a people for various ends. I mean, it could be purely tribalism. It could be perhaps something that is more or less to do with neocolonialism. In this case, I would say we, the people of Mthwakazi, were occupied since the 1980s by a tribalistic Shona political party which is called ZANU-PF. And our fathers and forefathers at the time did bear the brunt of pain, wanton brutality, that kind of violence that those that claim to have been in hell can only describe, where you see pregnant women being bayoneted with their babies stopped, their heads being crushed by boots of soldiers, and where a mother and a father, where a father and a daughter is forced to sleep and have sex in front of the other family members, where our people were burnt inside houses and they were shot if they did come outside, where our people were forced to dance on top of graves of their killed families and dance the so-called ZANU Shona, some Kongonya dances, that's what they used to say, and a very controversial song called Maiba Chikondo at the time. So that kind of pain is generational. They say it ended in 1987, but that they say that it hasn't ended. Actually, it has become clandestine. We, the Ndebeles, continue to be marginalized, subjugated. We are an occupied people. If there's what we call the Sahrawi people, or the Western Sahara people that are being occupied there by, which country is that in Africa?
It's Morocco.
It's Morocco.
Yeah.
I dare say that the Mthwakazi people are being occupied by the Shona people.
Similar to Barotse, just above your border.
Yes.
In Barotse land.
Yes. Yes.
Kenneth Kaunda doesn't want to recognize
to recognize it. So that Gukurahundi on its own it's something. Those agonies, the pain and suffering, humiliation that we have never recovered from is what drives some of us to form pressure groups like Matabeleland United. We seek redress and we seek to unite everyone who's of Matabeleland, wherever they are in the world, regardless actually of whatever political party they belong. We have realized that the so-called national politics is not working for us, and we want to do what we call, I would say, perhaps, political football.
So let me tell you where I come in. I'm a pan-Africanist of a different kind. Just yesterday, Biden has just lifted sanctions on Zimbabwe, but he left individuals. The chief of Gukurahundi himself.
Yes.
Yeah, Mnangagwa is still is still under sanctions, and his generals, 10 people, just to name a few. I believe, you know, the current problem that your Dudulas, your Patriotic Alliance have with Zimbabwe. I feel bad to see the system, because this is system driven, a system creating an environment where you and I as brothers will have to fight. We have to fight for something that neither of us actually own, because it's ours. And I'll tell you why. I mean, the Sahrawi people, Western Sahara has been forced to become Morocco, even if it's not. And Morocco is a very racist country.
Yes,
those people are too dark to be Moroccans.
Yes.
And I mean, they live in a desert, and they are not going to acclimatize in Morocco, because Morocco is just Spanish country in Africa. You talk about Barotseland, the Lozi people. Those are the water people. I mean, those are Great Lakes people. But Luzibabulela Soto, just like I do. And they are being marginalized there in Zambia, because before independence, they were promised things, say they are going to have their own republic, because they were a protectorate like Lesotho, Botswana and stuff. But after, and Kenneth Kaunda and his people started ignoring them, because the interest was to build a bigger country. The reason, I want you to let me finish. The reason I started with this big background is, I feel for not only yourselves in Mthwakazi, within your borders, and Barotse, I feel for them, and many other people all over Africa.
Yes.
The reason I feel for them is because there is big politics at play.
Definitely.
You'll ask yourself, why can't South Africa just, I mean, you know, I said this in the previous podcast. There are more Basotho people living in South Africa than in Lesotho. There are more Botswana people living in South Africa than in Botswana. Botswana people are just... They are 2 million, yes. And there are more Botswanas in South Africa than in... And of course, most of them are the over Herero, over Nama and stuff. And of course, even Swaziland is the same thing. Why can't politicians just say, guys, let us make SADC a country? I mean, they dismantle all the borders. These borders, you know, the reason we are fighting, the reason I'm seeing you as a Zimbabwean is because you come from the other border that is imaginary to me. It is the cost of building a physical boundary, a fence at Beit Bridge. It's next to impossible. That thing is impossible, and politicians don't want to tell people. It's Patriotic Alliance can go and camp there for 17,000 years. People will still cross that boundary. Because people are driven to where there's food.
Yes, and
you understand. So I want you to let me finish this. If all these countries become SADC, the Eastern countries, the ECOWAS, everyone just make, and then we start from there.
Yes,
and I'll tell you why. I would feel, and you will correct me, it will be easier for you to be in South Africa than to be in Zimbabwe, because of, you just spoke about this thing. You just talk about how Gukurahundi and many other things that is happening. Barotseland, I mean, we're talking about Ketima Mulilo in Namibia. Those people are our people. We are one common people, and I've done a podcast that shows you we are one common people. It's difficult to unite Africa at once, but what is the fear with our politicians? Just to sit down to dismantle this. I know they face assassinations attempt, they will face a lot of things, but you will always cry the same way you are crying, because our country, South Africa, will look like it's flooded by people. It will look like it's flooded by people, but this is our people. I mean, you guys had the Great Zimbabwe, and there was what is this? Mapunkubye. Those were empires before Johannesburg was there.
Yes,
you understand?
Ago,
yes, people converged there. So I'm saying it is not the first time we're having this. Why can't we unite? Just according to you, just if you understand, because you've been championing this project group for a long time, what makes it difficult to unite countries? Because for you and Amashona, I have to tell you, I've seen so much animosity. I've seen how, given the chance, the Maponga and Matinyerare, they will never acknowledge, they will never come forward. It is because it's the opium of majority. The reason why people are doing what they do is because they know they've got protection.
Yes.
That's why they marginalize you.
Yes, I would say to the likes of Maponga and Rutendo is that
they both have South African IDs,
yes, and ANC has allowed that. I'll explain why. And to Rutendo and the likes of Maponga is Maponga actually grew up in Ndebele. We know him very well in Solusi, and I dare say when I asked the elders that were looking after him when he was a toddler up until a boy, he has been always someone of questionable mental faculties. I'll put it in that way. And Maponga, he cannot vomit pan-Africanism and then at the same time defecate anti-Ndebele tribalistic tendencies that he's been consuming all his life through the ZANU, ZPC propaganda machinery. So that cannot be let happen. And I wonder when people let such people, they give them so much audience as if they own the narrative. You know, a lot of trivial knowledge can be easily researched. It doesn't really indicate that you are smart or you're intelligent. If you've got all the time and you've got a heavy dose of political buffoonery, you can speak all you want as long as there's an audience that seeks to hear the next word that you say. So to them, Maponga and Rutendo, people from Ndebele, we see them as lunatics. You know, those people that are somehow, they've got mental difficulties compounded by, you know, ZANU-PF Shona propaganda. They become literally walking political buffoons.
So like what exactly is it about, let's start with Rutendo, that you find fault with? Like I told you, for me, there's some tribalistic thing that he has said, and some, unfortunately, he says it in Shona, and my understanding of Shona is very limited.
I understand Shona, but I cannot recall exactly what. But when I hear it, I do, because you must remember that Shona is a language of occupation to we, the people from Ndebele, just as English is the language of the colonizer.
More like, because I always tell this to younger people, the reason I battle with Afrikaans is because Afrikaans was used to conquer and subjugate my people. Yes. That's why I find difficulty with Afrikaans. I suppose that's what you mean.
That's exactly the same thing. So Shona language is a tool of oppression. We're forced and interrogated and tortured with it and forced to sing ZANU praises and Mugabe praises. So it's a language of an oppressor. We detest it. We hate it with all our being. And it's been forced down our throat. Nonetheless, I would say perhaps now better, because the majority of the people that have left the country are in South Africa. So that's perhaps where we were able to breathe a bit. But you will find the same Shona who dares use his Shona privilege and language in ZIM when they come in South Africa. They will speak perfectly any South African language because they seek the privileges that come with speaking local languages. So that's hypocrisy of the highest note, if you ask me. So it's a survival instinct from the people, my fellow countrymen.
So this is what I've done. I have spoken. Do you remember the news headline that came up of the SGB chairperson?
I know it very well.
Yes. So I went to the school.
Yes.
I got contact for the principal and the SGB Shona person.
It would be interesting. Yeah.
Yes, I spoke to him. We agreed we're gonna have a sit down. He cancelled it, and then he made an appointment again. I say, okay, it's fine. We'll discuss. And I waited for him on a Sunday for him to come, and then. At the time that he's supposed to come, I call him, he doesn't answer. I call him, he picks up later. He said, no, he slept at 3 o'clock and he couldn't come. But I said, my brother, why would you do this? If you knew you weren't going to come, at least you would have told me. I could have spent my day maybe some in a better way. And then he says, okay, let's reschedule for Monday after work. I said, then it's fine. And then later on that day, he sends me a message. He says, I want to give you exclusive, but what are my benefits? I want you to read it for you. I'll just play it here.
It says, I want to give you an exclusive interview, but what are my benefits?
Yes.
You want my story, right?
That's me.
What are my benefits in doing this podcast? That's him, right?
Yeah.
When you say it, like, please be very specific so that I understand exactly what you mean. And then here is his reply. My brother, most of us came to support our families. Where I do not see benefits, we are not interested. This is a typical mindset of a Shona.
So I want you to understand that I got troubled. Him and I spoke at length, and I explained, and he understood that I want to, number one, I told him that, and I was telling the Dudula people, I was telling Dudula people that there's nothing wrong with what this guy has done to be a member of the SGB. Even to propose Shona, there's nothing wrong. I think what is wrong is for us from a distance to judge. I don't even think this is possible, by the way. But then I said to him, so let's sit down. I want you to I understand the SASA Act, that's what governs the SGBs and stuff. So I was telling him, don't worry, I understand. There's nothing in the SASA Act that stops you from doing whatever you are doing, blah, blah, blah. He understood, come, let's sit down. And he agreed. But then, by this, am I fair to say he was trying to solicit money from me to come to the podcast?
Yes, of course he was soliciting. It's wanton greed.
And I was so disappointed. Because as we spoke, I thought he understood that this is more than him and I. Because I said to him, we want to understand, we want you to explain the difficulties of Zimbabwean people in South Africa. We want you to understand because there's a storm brewing. Whenever you come, you know it's a safe space.
You want to make money out of the situation.
I said to him, here are the common people that you and I know. Go and ask these people if it's safe to be around. He said he was coming somewhere. I said, okay, let's go and meet there. Bring all your people so you could know. I said, yeah, but how am I safe, Karamana? You know you are safe. I think all of those things were just trying to frustrate me. But being there as it may, I was very disappointed. I've been very disappointed with a lot of people. But this is. I'm trying to show you that we do try to extend our hand of gratitude and extend brotherhood. But you can understand when someone says this.
I would say to you, I apologize on behalf of my forced countrymen, because we and Shonas were never one country. That was only combined by the whites, the Rhodesian Parliament in 1925. So even then, before the so-called Zimbabwe, were never one state. And we are a different people, I would say, these different tribes, I would say. I am all. Our movement, Ndebele United, is all for pan-Africanism. We'd like to see the borders gone. More so in terms of economy, We want someone here in South Africa to take an economic opportunity with someone in Zambia, do a deal online, deliver goods or whatever. The banking system and all that bureaucracy that stands in the way must be removed. We are all for that.
Yes.
And we are all for integration. But in instances that are as sensitive and emotional, like the Gukurahundi issue, is difficult because we have seen a phenomenon that we call Gukuraundism. This is fueled by a document that was done by the ZANU-PF Shona Politburo, that's what they call themselves. Remember that ZANU-PF moved into this tribalistic party. But I would say at the behest of the Rhodesian government and the British government, MI6. So in the end, the British and the South African government of the National Party at the time. So the Ndebeles, by extension, although the Shonas were carrying the trigger, the perpetrators are probably MI6, the British government, together with the apartheid government.
To sow division that they are still benefiting
to
from.
sow the division that they are still benefiting.
Okay, let me do this. I want us to speak current terms very quickly. The CCC.
Yes.
I understand a lot of Ndebele people didn't like it.
Mm-hmm.
I spoke to one on this podcast who said, no, this is just... what is the problem with... should I say, what was the problem? What is the problem?
The problem is we have seen, this is historic as well, historical, so to say it. It's we have seen that the people from Mthwakazi are militant people. They've always been at the forefront in fighting colonialism, fighting for their rights. They're self-determined people. We get this from our Zulu roots. Okay, that's the state that Mthwakazi built. We have always been resistant and militant. We are the first to raise a voice, the first to shoot a gun, the first to throw a grenade. So the formation of Triple C, which came from MDC, MDC was a formation initially when it started called ZAPU 2000. It was a project of Welshman Ngobe, the people of Ndebele. And that was hijacked by Tsvangirai when they instilled him as a president, because the belief was that the Shonas are the majority. You bring more buy-in from the Shona constituencies. And though that happened, tribalism was further entrenched. So did this happen when...
Before you go further,
yes.
So what you are saying is, at the formation of MDC,
yes,
they thought, okay, the people who they thought it's better for Morgan Tsvangirai to be the face of MDC,
yes,
because then he will lure in
yes,
Amashona people,
yes,
and Ndebeles will automatically be there just
yes,
to balance the numbers.
Yes, since it's their formation, nonetheless.
Yes, yeah.
Yes. So unfortunately, that was taken over, and tribalistic tendencies were entrenched. Again, we can see when Morgan Tsvangirai died, he became tribalistic, and the vice president of MTC at the time, Thokozani Kope, that lady, she was supposed to take over according to the constitution of MTC and be the president, and then she was not allowed to do so. She was called names, a dissident, a prostitute, and all those disparaging names they called her in an attempt to subvert what the constitution says and instill Chamisa instead. So Chamisa is a product of the violation of the constitution of MTC at the time. I think he's a dictator. He does not hear from anyone. He's a one-man party. He's got no structures, and he has got a tendency to impose his views, in particular to the people of Ndebele. And he's not sensitive to the past and present challenges of being marginalized.
So is Nesu Chamisa a Shona person?
Yes, he's a Shona person.
So, what is it about any political alternative? Because the gentleman who said where you said, he said. So I asked him, what are your predictions for the elections? He said he doesn't care, and I asked him why. He said, because those are Zimbabwe problems. I'm from Mthwakazi.
Yes.
Is it so?
You've got no idea. I say to you,
and I've been watching your interactions with Ndebele and Shona people on your timelines. I mean, the tension, it's so fierce.
The tension, my brother, is really, really so fierce. If it will be a nuclear bomb, I would say it will really destroy the whole of SADC. I think people, most of politicians, they underestimate the hate, the animosity, the hatred that has been built. They say again that the Shonas, through their political vehicle, ZANU included, and MDC and Triple C by extension, because Triple C or MDC is a surrogate of ZANU. The people that took over these political formations, MDC and Triple C, they are grandchildren, kids, and relatives of older generations in their 80s, like Mnangagwa himself, who are in ZANU, but now they want to insert themselves as the next political elite. So instead of contesting in their lands, in their own spaces, then come and flood our lands in Mthwakazi and seek to subjugate us and seek to take over political power and by extension economic power from people from Ndebele land. That's why we say to them, we resist and we reject them.
And I've seen this with other Ndebele people in South Africa.
Yeah.
You don't seem to see Shona people as your fellow brothers, because the way you said they a first brother.
Yes.
Like
there is no nation, my brother.
Yeah.
We were not one nation with the Shonas. There was never a nation. The nation was aborted even before 1980 at the Lancaster House. Our belief, and there is proof to that Mugabe sold out. The issue was what the so-called powers of the world, the British and the Americans, thought at the time. Remember, there was a Cold War going on, and the issue was Maoism, which was a ZANU, Zanla political ideology, versus the communism, which was the political language of Zipra and Zapu and Como.
There's a brother of mine who's Shona, and I've always thought he was in Ndebele because he spoke Zulu, and so I approached him and said, come to the podcast. He said, Mashan, why are you struggling to get Zimbabweans on your podcast? I say, dude, you've got no idea. I try, and I try from Mashona people, I try from Ndebele. It's just difficult to get people to come to the podcast, to come and speak about the issues of Zimbabwe, to form this unity that we are trying to form, because we need to share. Because I speak to people who speak about Zimbabweans. It then looks as if I hate Zimbabweans.
Yes,
because I want people to come sit here and speak for themselves. It's difficult to speak on behalf. And then he said, no, Mashona, you can't be struggling, man. We are all over. I said, okay, when are you coming? He said, no, I'll come. He hasn't come ever since.
I think perhaps guilt, if you may.
I still hope he will come. And I was hoping, because I told him, I hope he doesn't come alone.
Where did you grow up? Do you know where you grew up in Zim? Perhaps that will explain. Because someone who is even of Shona tribally, who was born and raised in Mthwakazi, has got the same sentiments as me. You'll be surprised.
Yeah.
So it's not really, it's a tribal political thing, because the only litmus test that was used by Gukurahundi was that you must be in Ndebele land or belong to a political party that Joshua Nkomo led.
So what happened in Gukurahundi? Something similar happened, but it was different in South Africa in the in the early 1990s.
The IFP and
the
stuff.
IFP,
Yes.
when it was sponsored by the National Party through declared to give them arms to fight in the hostels in the township, Eastern Soweto and stuff. So it almost happened, but the difference is they were not in power, and they were not
in uniform. Yes.
Stuff like that. So we still have remnants of such.
Definitely.
But yeah, we still have remnants of such. We still have survivors of such.
It's all over. Yes, a lot of people are still ahead.
Correct.
Yeah.
See, but it's getting easier. But there are always things that pop up that remind people of what we could go through and the dangers. That's why during December, when Gizwe started his tribalism, the warning was that, guys, do you know how dangerous this thing is? Because there's things we cannot come back from. You understand? So do you find, I tell people that reconciliation comes with conditions. For you to reconcile and to find peace, what would you want, not only from Shona people, but from the government as well? What would you want to replicate? And then afterwards, or you can start with telling me the numbers. How many estimated numbers of Ndebele people are there and Shona are there? And I understand Shona is a group of languages and a group of people
that are common.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
just give me the slide
I would
numbers.
say most of it that is the proverbial truth, or the narrative is lies. There is no such thing. We've been told since the 80s that the Shonas are 70% of the ZIM population. That was part of what we call a Gukurahundism.
Yes.
The Shona grand plan to subjugate and basically destroy and make the Ndebele people feel powerless against an adversary that's being sponsored by the neo-colonialists of the time, the British government. That's why in the 80s, when even Mugabe was busy butchering our people, he was knighted by the British monarchy. Thatcher was the prime minister at the time. So to me, Mugabe is I would say the only person ever to be knighted for murdering his fellow Africans. It's said that such a person is being held in high esteem. That's enough an indication that the person is a sellout.
What happened at the Lancaster House Agreement?
At the Lancaster House, it was an issue of Maoism versus communism. Thatcher he was quoted saying, I will choose, even before 1980, 1970, whom I will give power to. So at the Lancaster House, there were spies there and people that had sold out a long time ago. If you go back as far as in Zambia, the Zanla camps, when Hepe Chitepo was killed, they were burying each other alive, fighting for power. There's a Rhodesian agent who killed Chitepo. I think he was the president of ZANU at the time. All that was an effort. Mugabe was still in jail. He spent 10 years in jail, for those that do not know. When he came from jail, Mugabe was inserted by the same government, the CIO, that had arrested him into Mozambique to take over the leadership of a so-called rebel group, or what do they call them? Terrorists at the time. So Mugabe is the one that sold out before Lancaster, and the feud was realized along tribal lines. White people always knew. They keep documentation and history.
Keep it there. I want to go back to the Lancaster House. So in South Africa, we had CODESA collapse, we had CODESA 2 collapse, but what most people don't know is CODESA wasn't the first. CODESAs were not the first meetings. There were lots and lots of meetings.
Behind the
Dr.
doors.
Van Zyl Slabbert, he went to, he met with, he took politicians, he took academics, he took business people. They met in Harare, they met in Zambia, they met with Thabo Mbeki and Uwar Tambo to discuss what is the next big thing that we're going to do. They came to South Africa, they met, they called other meetings, minutes. There were lots of many meetings. And of course, I don't want to count those many meetings they had with Mandela privately while they said he was in about Ndebele that is always confused, and there's always unfounded animosity between us as Africans.
I would say the Ndebeles, Mthwakazi's people, I would say, Mthwakazi, we, the majority of us, I would say, those of Nguni extraction who speak Ndebele. Ndebele, I would say, is what Afrikaans is to Dutch. So, now, you might think that maybe I'm trying to be Zulu.
Yes.
But I'm just merely speaking my own language.
Yes.
And then I do say as well, we do learn Zulu. We do learn Zulu, we do learn Zulu novels, Uhlelo lwesiZulu and all that. Those are basically Zulu. So Zulu, you can write a Zulu exam in Ndebele and pass it. You know. So we do not seek to be anything else but who we are.
Whenever we hear you in South Africa, people always think you are pretending to be Zulu. You are talking about Zulu. That's how you speak.
Yes.
It's the same language but in another country.
Yes.
Even if Botswana in Botswana and Botswana in Northwest, they don't speak the same Setswana.
Yes.
Yes, that part I understand.
Yes. So I think the phenomenon is, no one wants to identify with anything that is inferior. Had Zimbabwe not been a failed state, perhaps people wouldn't hold the same sentiments.
True, correct.
Yes, so
we hit it on the nail.
So someone wouldn't say you're Tswana, someone from Botswana.
Yes.
Imagine a South African telling someone from Botswana, but your Tswana is somewhere.
Or
You know,
it's almost people from Botswana when they come to South Africa.
Yes.
Botswana in South Africa wants to somehow say, I mean, Tswana is, but it's immaterial.
It's
even
immaterial.
to even discuss it.
Yes.
So about the confusion between the two, people tend to think that whatever Rutendo, Matinyarare and Joshua Maponga, the narrative they carry and the perspective they carry about South Africa and the laziness, the uneducated.
Yes,
is it the same view that you guys have?
Yes, it's the same view.
No. Are you saying it's the same view?
No.
Do you also see South Africans as uneducated?
No. We do not see that. We are not part of that.
Yes.
We are actually victims of
the same thing,
of the same notions and sentiments. The Shonas have been telling us since Gukurahundi that Ndebeles were not educated. We do not want to work. The only thing we know is to run to South Africa, and that has been instilled and entrenched into the Shona culture. The Shona political system itself is played along tribal lines. That's how Mugabe created it to be, and these anglers at the time, the British. It's a divide and conquer strategy. So we do not believe that Zimbabweans are educated. If Zimbabweans are educated, perhaps they can say they're literacy. You know, education is supposed to produce competency. I see no competency in anyone in leadership in ZIM currently in government or elsewhere. The competency that I see actually of Zimbabweans is Zimbabweans that are outside the country. It's funny. You know, and to Rutendo and Maponga by extension is Rutendo, you cannot vomit you cannot vomit pan-Africanism and defecate anti-Ndebele tribalism on the same sitting in a toilet. I wonder, how do people digest such? If you are for pan-Africanism and then at the same time you look down, you are for the subjugation and denial of a genocide against a fellow African tribe. How do you even mix the two sentiments together?
Yeah.
And I think people like Rutendo, they are lunatics. these political buffoons that have got a willing audience. And I think it's high time, wherever those guys appear, you must put people like me to debate them, because all they have is trivial knowledge, and a lot of I would say political eloquence. The eloquence that Mugabe used to have in the 80s. Mugabe never spoke Shona. Actually, he was a British boy. He spoke perfect English. So I hold the same sentiments, and I see the same traits, like Maponga and Rutendo. They are Mugabe in the 80s, or a product of Mugabe. Eloquence does not necessarily mean competency or a higher intellectual capacity. Maponga himself, like I said, questionable mental faculties. Those that were having him as a toddler, my relatives actually. So I know who he is. And to the Zulu Nation, like I said, please, guys, we appreciate you for allowing us to be in here together with all other Africans, and we apologize for the crimes, atrocities that have been committed by our fellow countrymen. People from Mthwakazi, some are robbing people, some are stepping people, and all those things. And I say to the general South African, perhaps those people, they are bad and they deserve to be jailed and killed and taken off our communities. Perhaps
because they make back names for both of us.
Both of us, yes. And some of those people themselves, the people who are doing that crime, are victims of Gukurahundi. They've got no tertiary education. They've got no IDs even in ZIM. So they are outcasts. They've been denied tertiary education and all that. And they come here into South Africa. They think that this is the land of honey and crime, and they start doing such. And we as the Mthwakazi Nation, I know that together with the Zulu Nation, we are coming together to form what you call a traditional policing authority in areas like Hebrew and Uval. Whoever is been found wanting, we want to form or revive or bring to fore the traditional way of justice, where people are identified even when there is no concrete proof that they did something, but it's known that this is their lifestyle. Such people must be set down and interrogated the traditional way. So we are for all that, and please, like I said to the Zulu Nation, isiZulu sithi imamba ingene endlini, isizwe sikaMthwakazi asinazi induku. Otherwise imamba izosibulala isiqede, uZulu akasiza.
You are my brother-in-law.
Yes.
Because you are a fellow African who came to our boundaries, and you found a wife, you found one of my sisters, and you made family with.
Yes.
We previously discussed how the importance of intermarrying and diminishing the differences that we have actually build us stronger as a culture.
Yes.
And I've also lamented the fact that I do understand that Mthwakazi, they don't like the fact that Shona people would come into Mthwakazi and then marry the women, because the women would not find financial security and prosperity amongst a people where the men have been marginalized through Gukurahundi and stuff.
Yes.
So I'm saying it's a natural course of life. We won't win everything. With such, it's hard for you to accept. To see your fellow women being taken by other tribes and stuff.
A conquering tribe.
A conquering tribe.
Yes.
Like for us,
yes.
I would understand, but maybe differently, because I do not feel you were conquered. But I still insist, contrary to Oliswa and the Kasi people first who say foreigners must not marry South African women, and if they do, they must go away with them. And it's not only him, even Tepo has said you could understand that it's a typical thing, and it's not only Africans who feel that way, by the way.
Yes, the
most races, most races don't want foreign men who come and take women from their own. But for us as Africans, I actually think intermarrying is very important for us. Anything you want to say about it, and then also answer the fact that if those sanctions in Zimbabwe change the economic conditions, you will enjoy your dual citizenship, and you'd want your kids and your wife to also experience Mthwakazi from the other side, and even consider living there if the conditions are the same.
Yes, if conditions remain, if conditions improve, yes, definitely I'll go live here. Well, we can work remotely. In my field where I work, I can easily work remotely. I can work remotely, and I would like really to go live there. I've got no issues with that, and I think more people must disperse now, generally in Africa. The so-called economic centers like Joburg that were created by the former colonial powers can no longer sustain the population. It's high time now new centers start coming up.
Bulawayo must grow.
Harare must grow.
Shai must grow.
Shai must grow. Francistown must grow. So that we disperse, and that will take away a lot of the pressure, the competition for resources. And I say, the South African economy is in a better position to do that. It's so easy. I say, let open the economic arteries of the South African economy to the rest of the SADC region. Deal with the bureaucracy that stands in the way of a typical South African from realizing economic opportunities, say in Zambia. If someone wants to go and sell chicken to someone in Zambia, why don't you do it online and deliver them over a truck overnight? Why the duties and everything? We should trade as a block, and trading as a block allows us to compete, to have better bargaining power with the rest of the world. The Chinese, they're a lot now, you know, and for China to come and deal with a legal Zimbabwe and roll a carpet for Mnangagwa is nothing but a joke. And at the same notion, I dare say that we want to be a separate country from the rest of Zimbabwe, because we are being marginalized as a people.
You rather become at a bigger SADC country, like maybe Southern African countries. It's better than to find yourself in a country like Zimbabwe where the people are marginalized.
Yes, let's say, for example, let's say the provinces in South Africa were countries. If that were so, the premier of Northwest, when they come into a pan-African federation, so to speak, they will come with their powers representing their people for the benefit of their people, for the greater good of Africa.
Sure.
We, the Ndebeles, do not have that ability, because the Shonas seem to represent and conquer us. So I say, wait, we cannot come into the Pan-African fold as we are, because we're people that are being marginalized. We have no self-determination. We want to come to the party as we are, with our culture, with no one seeking to conquer our identity, our lens, and everything that represents who we are as a people, without the genocide, with the justice, and not the justice that we are given, like Mnangagwa is trying to do now, by sending the Ndunas to go and negotiate on his behalf. We want the justice that is in our terms, the victims. And we want the political power that is not given by shown as a form of tokenism. We want the political power that we create ourselves. We want in Zimbabwe, where anyone, any political Shona party, when they seek the Mthwakazi vote, just like the Americans seek the what? The black vote. They must come and trade. We need to lay down our demands, what we need to be done for us as a people, and we need that political formation of parties in Zimbabwe to understand our concerns as people who have suffered the genocide and we continue to be marginalized.
You are currently not represented in Zimbabwe politics.
We were currently not represented.
Because CCC actually failed you.
Yes, CCC failed us. They came, took our votes, and they imposed the Shonas. And then came Chabangu dismantled that. And we were for Chabangu because the Shonas cannot have their bread but at both sides.
Who's the new leader for CCC?
The new leader for CCC is Washman Ngube, I think. They say he's the interim, but that's the original, one of the original 3 founding members of MTC at the time when it was called ZAPU 2000.
So if the CCC for the next elections, if the CCC builds enough force, I'm using a wrong word when I say force,
political
enough reportage and enough a rapport within Mthwakazi nation to say, guys, the only way for us to escape this is to participate politically, and then he rally people behind him, and then the Shonas who are sympathetic and understand your cause say, guys, it's been a long time that the Shona people have been dominating Ndebele. They start coming to the party and supporting
our cause. Yes.
A CCC party that is led by an Ndebele person. Is that better for you?
Perhaps.
Would you trust such a formation? Or you are still going to
we're never gonna, I'll say we're never gonna let our guards down ever again, because the fear is we're going to suffer the same persecution that Nkomo did.
So is it Mthwakazi Republic, or maybe
it's Mthwakazi Republic? It's Mthwakazi Republic, a secession, or Mthwakazi province of South Africa? That's what we say.
All right, no, thank you very much. Let's close. But I'm happy that you are promising that you'll come back.
Yes,
the issue that would have missed, and let's see how the political landscape unfolds, and then we're gonna meet again and do it again.
Yes.
And you are willing to have a Shona person?
Definitely, I'm willing. I'm willing to have my fellow force countrymen.
Yes.
And I love them. I've got sisters and whatsoever. It's the point is economic power in Zimbabwe is the means to economic power. The elite have become elite and rich through political connections. So because ZANU has amassed all that political power along tribal lines, the Shonas have emerged as the elite, wealthy people. Hence I say they are the pigs from Animal Farm. Yeah.
No, thank you.
Thank you, brother.
My brother Keith Ngube.
Thank you, sir.
We're gonna do it again, guys.
Thank you, sir.